Hey, what's up, guys? What's up, guys? Uh, Today it's me and the big C. Hello, C. Introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's C. I Discord debate. I read philosophy.
Badass. So since Sakazuki decided to lose to Haram in the last couple of days, and had a hard time accepting it, with his debate skill as well, we decided to go over the most infamous Sakazuki debate ever, which he definitely lost. But you know, people don't really have a hard, don't have an easy time actually distinguishing why he lost. So we're gonna be talking about his Draco debate, obviously. And since the rec is privated, currently we're gonna ask C to kind of recap it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched that debate many times whilst it was still public. Um, I have a pretty good understanding of what occurred during the debate. I'll just give a brief recap. Obviously, the debate was like, I think, around 13 minutes long. So there might be some things I forget to mention, but overall, the debate was regarding admiral scaling. I believe that the first bit was Sakazuki trying to show that the admirals are stated to be the strongest in the Marine headquarters. They deliberate a bit about the nature of the data book. So they're like, oh, is this referring to their titles, admirals? Is this making a statement that's meant to be declarative, as in it's actually putting themselves above everybody else in the Marine headquarters? Like, what's going on here? And so Sakazuki makes an argument that I think succeeds in the first bit that shows that it's probably not referring to the title. And then what Draco decides to do is he decides to give a pretty obvious reductio. I mean, it's a reductio by pretty much every standard. Um, I believe that what he says he's going to do, he says he's going to steel man Sakazuki's argument, and he asks Sakazuki a question. And I want to make it very clear he gets the whole question out. He's not interrupted. He gets the whole question out. And so the question was something like this. The idea is that the admirals have pretty bad scaling in Marineford. If you've read One Piece, if you've read Marineford, you would know that the admirals have pretty bad scaling. Aokiji goes relative to not to Kuzan, to Jozu, for example. And Ace clashes with Aokiji afterwards. There's some like pretty bad anti-feats there that we wouldn't expect from High Tail of the Verse. And so Sakazuki explains that in the debate as the admirals holding back. And then the idea that Draco is trying to present, which is supposed to be a criticism of the interpretation of the scan being in reference to something other than the title, is okay, let's say that the admirals were holding back. Well, when Kizaru, wait, what was it? I think someone gets kicked into it, but I'm going to ask Gary for this. Somebody gets kicked into the building. I think it might be Kizaru.
Sorry.
Okay, so I think Marco kicks Kizaru into the building, right? Okay, yeah. So like the idea was, okay, Marco kicks Kizaru into the building. That much is certain. We see this very clearly. And then the question was like, was Kizaru holding back here or not? So like the idea was like, if Kizaru was holding back here, then it wouldn't make sense, right? Because by holding back, he's gone against his objective. His objective is to not destroy the building, right? And so if he holds back and, his holding back leads to him getting kicked into the building, that's kind of counterintuitive. It's going against the very thing he wants to avoid. And so it doesn't make sense to say that he's holding back. But if he's going all out, then an all-out Kizaru gets outspared and kicked into a building by Marco. And then the idea that the admirals have this sort of like supreme scaling is sort of put into question. And so the question that was asked was, how do you account for this under your view? Right? How do we preserve the integrity of the statement being in reference to the whole Marine headquarters as opposed to the title without at the same time jeopardizing the coherency of the narrative? Okay. And then what Sakazuki says in response is something along the lines of, okay, well, if we know that the prior statement is true, then, right, so he starts saying off something along those lines. It might not be exactly like that, but he makes a statement about knowing that the prior statement is true or having an understanding of the prior statement. So he says, if we know that the prior statement is true, if we understand the prior statement, then, and then Draco says, hey, you're begging the question, right? That's just circular, right? Like you can't say that. And then they deliberate over that for a bit. They talk about the Steelman stuff, talk about the begging the question stuff. Me personally, I don't really care who won that point. That point is like pretty gibberish because at the end of the day, the idea is that the question that Draco asked went unanswered. And it pretty obviously just is begging the question, right? So like the idea is that I think Sakuzuki's response was like, Draco said he's going to steelman the statement, right? So Draco said he's going to steelman the statement, and they both interlocutors in this recording get the definition of steelman horribly incorrect. I think Sakazuki defines it as like presupposing that someone's argument is true, or something. Like they just define it in like a really bad way. It's obvious what Draco meant by steelman was like, let's assume that your argument is true and see what comes from that. Not let's just say the argument is true and move on. But that's how Sakazuki interpreted the statement. And I'm not really interested in like the semantic stuff. I think it was pretty clear what Draco was trying to say in the debate prior to this Bergfest. And it's like the idea is just that the reductio went unanswered. And even if I was being charitable and let Sakuzuki continue the sentence, you can't offer a response to the reductio that's contingent on the thing that's already being assumed to be true. Right? So like we're assuming that the statement is true for the sake of the reductio. So if you say something like, well, you know, if we know that the statement before is true, then if you're trying to make an inference based on the prior statement that's already being assumed to be true, it's not really responding to the question. The question is, how can we account for the statement before being true if it's the case that, you know, there's this instance where no matter what horn we choose to take, the statement before seems to be false. And so you starting off by saying, well, the statement before is true, isn't really explaining anything. And I think that's what Draco was getting at pretty obviously, is that you can't answer my question by assuming that the thing is true, and then building off of that and saying, well, because the thing is true, then, you know, like, then what? There is no then, right? Because you have to show me how, given that this thing is true, you can explain these things. I just don't think that Sakazuki did that in the debate. Maybe you could have said that he could have given an argument, right? He could have said something that would have responded, maybe. But what's certain is that he didn't. In the recording, he did not. And I don't do assumptions. I like to go off what's on the table at the time of the debate. And so Draco put something on the table and Sakazuki failed to put something on the table. And it's entirely Sakazuki's fault for allowing Draco to derail the conversation in such a way that he was unable to answer the question. And so is it unfair? It ended up being spurgy. It ended up being over talking and all of these things. Is that unfair? Sure. But is it entirely Sakazuki's fault that at the end of the day, I don't know why I'm getting a call. Wait, hold on. Wait, did I cut out?
No, you're good.
Okay, yeah, but it's entirely Sakazuki's fault that he just allowed the debate to take that sort of route. He could have said, look, I'm not going to entertain this, you know, X, Y, Z. After wrapping up that point, he could have just given his response at the end of the recording. But instead, they both agreed to like wrap up there. And so I think it's pretty clear that, you know, Sakazuki didn't win that debate. I think it's important as well because that debate is like the main debate that Sakazuki uses as a testament to his ability in the debate com. He was like, oh, like, you know, one of my feats that I beat Draco in this like 13-minute recording where half the recording is me spurging and the other half is me just not answering the reductio. I think it's important, you know, that people see that he just didn't win the recording or he didn't win the debate. I don't know if Gary wanted to add anything, but I had like a few more things to say.
Yeah, I just think that the judgment criteria that Sakuzuki proposed is super hopeful to say the least. Means when your entire reason for winning the debate, or one of the reasons that he proposed to winning the debate is, well, I could I could have said this or that if I wasn't interrupted. I just think it's pretty telling of how the debate actually went by itself. But
Yeah.
I'm kind of confused. I'm kind of confused on how you think that he won the first point, if that's what you said. Because I think he just denied the antecedent being the first point. Sakazuki, that is.
Well, my memory of the first point is a bit hazy. My understanding was like he was showing. Oh my god, I keep getting a call. Wait.
You're good, bro.
Yeah, my understanding was like he was trying to show that the admiral statement, like all else equal, would not be referring to the title. And I think he mentioned something about the quotation marks and how the quotation marks aren't present in the data book or in the scanner he's talking about. And so that would lend credence to the idea that you know, the admiral statement is not talking about the title. That's all I remember from the first point. And like based on what I remember, that would seem like a rejoinder. There might be some things I'm missing that maybe you remember that you want to bring to my attention.
Yeah, bro, that's what I want to say. Like, even if you're, I mean, to me, it sounded like you're kind of like shitting on Sakazuki a little bit there. For the most part, like, obviously, like he did terribly during that debate, but kind of upplaying that point is kind of unfair to me because he brought up the quotation marks as implicitly a sufficient condition for things being quoted.
Oh, I see what you mean. So you're saying like he's saying if the quotation marks are there, then it's referring to the admiral statement. And if the quotation marks are not there, therefore it's not referring to the admiral title or something. Like that's what you think he's making that like invalid inference.
Yeah, he just denied the antecedent. Yeah, and
Okay, yeah, I mean,
Draco
I'm
pointed
not.
out like very clearly as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember that point of the debate very clearly. I only remember the end bit. Like it probably is the case that he was denying the antecedent. In order for it to not be a denial of the antecedent, he'd have to show like it's more likely, given that there are quotation marks, or given that there are not quotation marks. Sorry, that it's not referring to the admiral title. I'm not sure if he did this. Like I said, I'm pretty hazy on that debate. It happened like 8 years ago, and I watched it like a year ago multiple times. But I am pretty clear on like the second bit of the debate, and how that played out.
Eurostar. But me and Flames had a conversation on this like literally the other day. You know what his response to the reduction was?
What?
He thought that Sakazuki responded to it by saying, um, if we just take the title to be like the most consistent with the story, like if we just want to say and keep consistent with the story, then Kizaru would have to be holding back. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's just not a response, right? Because the title, like one thing people need to understand about these reductios is that it's already granted, right? Like that's the whole point of the reductio. We assume that something is true. So we're assuming that the admirals are, the strongest, and so we're assuming that the reasons to why they have the bad performances in Marineford is that they're holding back because they want to avoid destroying the building. We're assuming all of these things. We're assuming that they are truly the strongest. We're assuming that they're holding back. We're assuming that they don't want to destroy the environment. We're assuming all of these things, and then the idea is that it's either the case that when Marco kicks Kizaru, Kizaru holds back, and that's why he ends up getting kicked into the building, or he does not hold back. If it's the case that he holds back, then it's obvious that he doesn't care about the building, right? Because he holds back, and in this, he allows himself to get hit into the building, right? That's the idea. Like he's limiting himself and allows himself thus to get hit into the building. But then that calls into question whether the admirals care about the environment. If the admirals don't care about the environment, then that calls into question the reason for them holding back in the first place, i.e. they care about the environment. And so it calls into question them holding back in the first place. So if you take the idea that he holds back, you then also have to commit yourself, according to Draco at least, to the idea that he's not holding back, right? Because he holds back to avoid destroying the building. But in holding back, he destroys the building, which implies that he does not care about the building. But then if he doesn't care about the building, then he doesn't have a reason to hold back. That's the sort of idea. And then if you say that he's not holding back, and it calls into question the animals being the strongest, like immediately, like automatically, because the idea is like, if he's going all out and he still has these anti-feeds to Marco, who's like YC1, then it calls into question him being like this high tier, strongest in the Marine headquarter, in comparison to people like Garp, for example, who have like better performances arguably against Marco. I mean, like that's like the obvious idea of the argument. And so like saying, oh, what's more consistent is if he was holding back. One doesn't even engage with like the actual reductio in and of itself. But it's two, like what's in question is the consistency. The reductio is meant to point out some inconsistency. And so if you just say, oh, it's more consistency that he's holding back, you're not even engaging with the thing. You're just kind of like running into the wall of the reductio, like head first.
Yeah, it doesn't respond to the response at all. Because like it's like you said, either he holds back and he just doesn't care about the base, and so he has no, like okay, doesn't really make sense with his goals as an admiral, or
Yeah, exactly.
he cares about the base, and then you just can see that he doesn't hold back. Like it's so autistic. Well, I think it's pretty obvious why he lost that debate. What do you think about his Haram debate recently?
Oh, the Haram debate. Wait, before we move on to the Haram debate, I wanted to say like two things. The first thing is, look, bro. The thing is, bro, is with this Sakazuki debate, with him versus Draco, he might say like in response to this video, like I used to hold the belief that he won, or that it was Incon, or any of that mumbo jumbo. And like quite frankly, I don't remember. Like it might be the case that I held the belief that he won. Like I wouldn't be like entirely surprised. I wouldn't be entirely shocked. But like the idea is like what we really care about isn't what people used to believe, or rather the reasons they have for the belief itself. It's like the idea is like if they can't give me a reason that outweighs the reasons that I have for believing he loses, then I'm still rational in believing that he lost the debate. It's irrelevant why I believed in the past, because why I believed in the past may have been because I had a lack of knowledge or a lack of understanding or a different judgment style. That's ultimately just less rational. And like the second thing I wanted to say was I think we should bring attention, after we talk about the Haram debate, to the fact that he refuses to make public his debates against people like Moose, against people like Draco, against people like Brain Mason, against people like Apollo. He refuses to make these debates public. When he debates somebody like Haram, When he has this like overwhelming consensus that he thinks he won, and he thinks that he annihilated, he thinks that he slammed, he can't see how he possibly lost. He's like completely fine with uploading these recordings, atting everybody and telling everybody to go comment that he won and etc. etc. I think it's pretty telling, right? Because the idea is these debates that he's trying to flex his feet, he himself is not confident that he won those debates. If you go to someone like Apollo, you look at his YouTube channel, he posts all of his debates. And that's because even if you think he won or lost, he believes that he won all of those debates. Sakazuki, on the other hand, I think is a facade. I think he puts up this persona that he's like this really good debater and he beat all of those people, when in reality he doesn't actually believe the things that he does. And if he does, then why doesn't he post them in a way that he posts his Haram,
Right, he just has ego but no confidence. That's why he can't actually post
Exactly.
debates. No, but bro, I mean, he gets all his validation from the comments most of the time, or his friends saying that, okay, yeah, I won this debate, I won that debate. But then, when he does upload them, it usually seems that the consensus is actually very much against him. And even for Haram, like, he had to literally ping his whole server on their video that he asked someone to upload, because the consensus was not going against him, it was like going for him in that video that wasn't already uploaded. Like, I don't know, does that tell you anything? I don't think it tells me anything. But yeah, what I want to say is as well.
I mean,
bro, after the Haram debate, before I actually tell you why I think he lost, he crashed out so terribly against Haram. It's actually not even funny.
yeah.
Let me send it in chat. Let me send it in chat. I was like, this guy's actually mad.
Wait,
Mad.
what chat?
I'm gonna send it in general chat. Hold on. Look. Zane. One sec. Look at this guy, bro. This guy's insane in that. One sec. Let me forward it. This is not even 1/5 of the fucking things he said. Like, is this a normal guy too? Does this look like a normal person?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want to like put these in like the video edit. I mean, I'm not gonna read 9 pages of Sakuzuki going insane. I mean,
I'll show it, bro.
he's like
I'll show it.
me personally. I mean, if I win a debate against somebody, I'm not gonna go as far as to sit in their DMs. Like, it's not even like a public saying. I'm like in their DMs. No one can see this, and I'm like berating them on why I think they won. Especially if it's Haram. If people don't know who Haram is, that guy has serious autism, right? Like, he doesn't care about anything you say. Every debate Haram has gone into, he leaves the debate with the overwhelming impression that he won that debate, in spite of the fact that he loses 95% of his debates. No offense to Haram, but like every debate I've seen him in recently has been a loss, except from the Sakazuki one, which I have the view that he won when Incon on. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty strange. I mean, he's sitting there, and it's like, I think this is like behavior of somebody that's, insecure.
Yeah, he's super insecure.
Right? Like, this is insecurity. It has to be insecurity. Because he's sitting there and he's like berating this guy in his DMs. And me personally, it's like imagine I say, for example, yo, like, Garo, you're gay or something. Like, you're gay. Like, if you really weren't gay, maybe you're going to get angry, maybe you're going to get frustrated. You're not going to sit in my DMs and say, hey, you think I'm gay, but I'm not gay, bro. Everybody thinks that I'm straight, and everybody I talk to thinks that I'm straight too, and everybody thinks that you're wrong. I'm actually not gay, just a retard. Like, obviously, I'd leave that conversation thinking, hey, I was joking, but this guy actually is gay. Like, look at the way he speaks. Why so defensive, Like, that's the whole idea.
Yeah, people don't get insecure like that when they actually confident what the debate's called. Bro, okay, bro. I offered them a chance to debate me last week or whenever I uploaded that video. The guy still didn't take it. But yeah. I'm just gonna. Do you want to talk about the Haram debate? Because I have a lot left on the video.
Oh, the Haram debate. Okay, I mean,
Yeah.
I had the opinion at first that Haram lost. I think at first, like, okay, so here's what happened. I watched the recording. In the first 3 minutes, Haram went circular, like, pretty blatantly, like, he's kind of bad. And I was like, okay, well, Sakazuki's winning. I mean, there's not much more to see. 2 low tiers are engaging. Haram's the lower tier, so he's losing. And then I started listening into the conversation a bit more. It's like the context of what I derived, if I'm incorrect on anything, or if you disagree on anything I say, then you can correct me. But the overall context of the debate is that Sakazuki was discussing his judgment in which he favored Archie over Haram in a Demon Slayer debate. And like, the idea was that Haram made an argument about what the majority of the Demon Slayer fan base believed or something, or agreed with. So he made an argument given the population. So the population that's being discussed, statistically speaking, is the Demon Slayer fan base. So the population, let's write this down, equals DS fan base. Okay, and so what does Archie do? Archie says, okay, well, what's the argument for that? Like, what's the evidence for the idea that the majority of the population that's being discussed believe in this thing? And so Haram sends a poll, right? He sends a poll. He's like, look at this poll. In this poll, right, majority of the sample, where a sample is like an extracted group from the population, and majority of the sample seem to agree with X. They seem to hold to that belief, X. And he said that this is evidence for the idea that the population also held to that belief, X. And like outside of the debate, this is like really dumb. Like obviously you can't just say that because there is some sample from the population that agree with X, that therefore that's evidence for the population as a whole agreeing with X, because there's other factors you have to look at, like sample size, stratification, etc., bias. I don't think Archie brought up any of those. I think Archie just asked, like, why should I believe that the data correlates to the population? Why should I believe that the data represents the population or links to the population? So like maybe in a sense he loosely brought up these sorts of issues with correlation from samples and evidences from studies to populations. Maybe he brought up it loosely, but the idea is like he didn't mention a specific issue. And then Haram responded by saying, well, look, he probably gave a lot of other responses too. This is the response that I particularly zeroed in on in the discussion of Sakazuki. He said something along the lines of, majority of statisticians would agree that even a sample size of 1 would, generate some likelihood, even a little bit, but just some small likelihood for the claim about the population. And that idea goes uncontested by Sakazuki. Now, regardless of whether it goes contested by Archie or not, we're not talking about whether Archie contested it. We're talking about whether Sakazuki justified whether Archie contested it. If you check the recording, after this stuff is said, Sakazuki goes on his Spurgfest again, and he's like, we don't care about the statisticians. We don't care about what they say. We're asking why it's evidence for you, right? He says something along those lines. And that just isn't a response. And so it seems as if Haram does give some reason to believe that the sample and the evidence and the data from the sample that he, extracted would correlate to the population, right? Or would correlate to the population, and just doesn't get responded to by Sakazuki. And that's why I have the view that Sakazuki lost the debate, substantively.
Yeah, it's just confusion. I think most people who think that Sakazuki won perceive the debate as Archie just asking the guy why the sample size actually correlates to the Demon Slayer fanbase, like this categorically. He might have asked that. I don't think he did. But point is, Sakazuki just kept saying that. I think that's just a basic shadow box against what Haram was saying. He didn't care about the sample size correlating at all. That's not what Archie was bringing up. It's terrible. Yeah, and if we're talking about just one example increasing probability that Haram will lose, just right. There's no ifs or buts.
Yeah.
It's very retarded.
And like even if it's the case that the data only increases the likelihood by like an infinitesimally small amount, like the whole point is that as long as it increases the likelihood such that it outweighs the prior hypothesis, that it should be the one that we take. I honestly don't think that Haram was thinking like this far into it. I don't think he even intended to make that argument. But like what's clear is that he did give this reason, and his reason did in fact go unresponded to. And like from Sakazuki's perspective, he hearing that Haram has given a reason should respond to the reason. Even if he doesn't think that Haram is, making this argument or anything, he still has put this on the table as some sort of data, as some sort of reason, and he just doesn't respond to it. He just actively doesn't respond to it. And I've seen a lot of people in the comments say stuff like, what's it called? Maybe it's the case that, Sakazuki was asking why, the data is at all related to the population. But the idea is like, even if that's true, what Haram said explains that. The idea is that if we have a sample from the population and there is some data where the majority of the sample agrees with some belief, then that serves as some likelihood increaser for the population, the majority of the population, believing in some belief. And so that idea, if that's what Haram said, which I'm pretty certain it was, I could get the clip, if that's what Haram was communicating and it went unresponded to, then he just gives a pretty, in my opinion, a pretty strong justification, all else equal, for believing that, what he's saying is likely increasing. It's almost like saying, oh, why is smoking at all linked to lung cancer? And then you say, oh, well, because the majority of these, surgeons and these doctors and these researchers say that, smoking in some way, even smoking a little bit, increases the likelihood of getting lung cancer for anyone, or for most people. Like, that seems pretty strong evidence. Most people operate like that in their day-to-day lives. When the doctor says something, they believe the doctor because they're an authority in that field. And when the statistician says something, they're likely going to believe the statistician because they're an authority within that field. So when they don't respond to these sorts of arguments, I can't see how you could ever offer the individual a win. Maybe at best incon, but like not a win.
You think Sakuzuki ever won a debate? Because I was thinking about
That
it.
he ever won a debate?
Yeah,
Oh, no?
I was thinking about it while you were speaking, and like I can't think of a debate he won. I'm not gonna lie. He lost to Deadboy and Rec a couple years ago. He lost to Getojin and Rakazan. It's pretty bad.
He claims to have beaten me on Skepki and Verse. Like, I don't remember that recording at all.
He lost that.
I can't remember like what happened or what was discussed. All I remember is that Brain Mason said that I won the debate, and then him and Brain Mason talked about it, and he won't upload that recording. Like, he won't upload it. And I think that's pretty telling. I think it's pretty telling because if you're uploading you versus Haram, and you're telling people to look at how you beat Haram so badly, and you also believe that you low diffed, Brain Mason on this topic, you believe that you beat him pretty soundly, you believe that anybody that's rational would have this opinion of you. Because keep in mind, it's not the case that for every single debate, it's clear who wins, right? Like, you can watch a debate, me and Gyro can watch a debate and have two different opinions of who won, or maybe I'll have an opinion that is different from his, and then we talk about it, and then he clarifies something to me. Because, like, bro, not all debates are clear. But the way Sakazuki speaks of his debates, he speaks of these debates as if you disagree with him, then you're either retarded, or you're biased, or you didn't listen, or some combination of the three. And, like, I'm just unclear. If it's so sound that you beat Brain Mason, for example, like, this guy is, like, pretty high reputed in the community. People view him pretty strongly in the philosophy community. If you think you beat him on a topic that's, in some way related to philosophy, in some way related to statistics, like some Bayesianism stuff, which is a topic that he should have knowledge on, why are you so afraid to just upload the recording or make it public, right? This is like me beating, I don't even know who's like a really good philosopher. It's like me beating the Troyer on theism, and I say, look, I beat him soundly. But then when people ask for the recording, I'm like, I'm only going to show the recording to like select few people that I think are unbiased. Like, what's going on, right? Like, I don't follow that reasoning at all. But then you show the recording of you being Haram to everybody. It's like pretty weird.
I mean, like I said, he's not confident actually beating them. And while at that, the reason why he's not confident is because I'm not lying. People do consistently tell me that they just lied to the guy for just to be on his good side. Maybe not lie to him because they don't want to get banned, because I mean, he's not lying. He doesn't like ban people like a lot, but gosh, can I get this attack off, please? Hello. Okay, yes. He doesn't ban people a lot, but he's still like a ticking time bomb, dude. you know what I'm saying? Like, he crashes out every debate, bans 30 people. Like, how do you expect him to say, okay, yeah, here's your debate, you lost that terribly, please don't ban me? Like, obviously it's not reasonable to ask people to just be honest with you after you do that. Come on, just be for real.
Yeah, I mean, bro, people speak to the guy and they tell him what they want him to hear. Because at the end of the day, he does own like one of the most active servers that are left in the community, right? And so like the idea is, people want to stay in those servers. I wanted to stay in those servers at a point. And so like I would just like avoid talking about him and his debate skill. But it gets to a point, right? Like, I'm a believer in freedom of speech. I'm a believer that we should be able to say what the fuck we want to say. And so like, bro, I'm not gonna like stroke your penis while you shit talk me, and etc. etc. And like, he always brings up this point when he's talking to me. He's always like, oh, like, why is it the case that, when I was outside of the community, when I left the community, right, you had this agenda, and etc. etc. And now when I'm back, everybody's tier list is starting to look a lot like mine. Why is everyone's tier list look like a lot like mine? And like, the idea is like, I think he's thinking that the reason why is because he's come to the community and he's like the Jesus Christ of the community. He's just told everybody the truth of reality, that, he's won all his debates and that he should be tier 1. I don't I don't think that's what it is. I think the reason why people are starting to, place him higher or have tiers that more so agree with his, is because of the idea that now that he owns Totsuki, now that he's back in the community, he's active, people are less open to placing him lower or to expressing their true views of him in his presence. Obviously, it's like shit talking somebody while they're right in front of you. I don't know. While they are one of the owners of the servers, it's like something I wouldn't do. Right? Like it doesn't make any sense. It's like there's a guy with a gun and it's pointed at you. And he just come into town, and you think he's like a fucking knobhead. Right? I'm not gonna say like, look, you're a knobhead, bro. I'm not gonna say that. I'm gonna say you're a pretty cool guy. I'm gonna go about my day. Not because I think he's a cool guy, but because I want to avoid, getting bullied or getting shot or whatever. And so yeah, I mean that equally explains the data. It's pretty clear. I think that's probably the reason. If you go to like side comms, people don't have Sakazuki all that high. And maybe that's because he gatekeeps his Rex. But once again, I think there's a reason for him gatekeeping his Rex. I think he gatekeeps the Rex because he knows if he goes to the public, the true consensus, not like the fake consensus that he talks about, oh, I spoke to Mercury and Void, and I spoke to Infinity, and they all said that I win. So why is it you guys that say I lose? Not like the fake consensus, like the actual consensus of the people, like the average Joe that gets to debate on their YouTube feed. He decides to listen to or like doing dishes, and they're like, wait, what the fuck? This Sakuzuki guy got like low-key baked. What the fuck's going on?
Bro, he banned Aston for not siding with him under the Haram vid. He didn't even like say okay, yeah, Haram slammed or anything like that. He just said, I'm just a bystander, baby. He got fucking banned from Tosuki. I'm crying. Bro, like this is why the consensus is why it is. Shake General Shot. Like
Yeah, I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read it out.
Yeah.
He says, I think you know that I know that you know. Okay, what the fuck? I think you know that I know that you know. Nice. As I said, now that you have done this dumb shit, you are never approaching above tier 4 on any main com list
like,
until an outcome.
What the fuck?
Good luck in your syndicate, though. Again, posting a misleading YT video. In every one of his debates, by the way, he always says, again. All right, bro, I don't want to have to mute you, but again, it's not rhetorical. If you're repeating yourself over and over again, it doesn't sound rhetorical. But yeah, he says, again, posting a misleading YT video, censoring comments, then continuing to rep it afterwards, blah, 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 blah. And like, the idea is like, bro, anyone that's in Totsuki or was in Totsuki knows that being around Sakazuki is like walking on eggshells. It's just really tense. You can't really say what you want to say around the guy. You can't say, hey, I think you lost this debate because of X, Y, Z reasons, because he's going to say, you have an hour to justify yourself to the VC. Otherwise, I'm going to ban you. Like, no one wants to get banned. A lot of people play in Totsuki or like sit in Totsuki and just chill, talk. And people want to have that space. And so when they're threatened, it's like, I'm just going to cut down. But obviously, me and Gary, we're not going to cut down. We're not people like Yanni. We're not people like Mercury. We don't just stroke the dick. We bite the dick. And so that's why we make the video.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, Yanni's a notorious cucker, man. Notorious flat bottom.
Yep.
We fuck with it. Well, on that note, guys, does anyone else have anything to say?
Yeah, Mercury, mic up.
Fuck Mercury, actually. Isaac, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, go on. He's afraid.
Yeah, it's just like very funny how Yanni is defending Sakazuki. Is that just me?
Are you sorry?
Wait, repeat it.
I said it's very funny how Yanni isn't defending Sakazuki, you know?
Okay, he doesn't fuck with him. That's why. Like.
So the nigga just lies, bro.
Yeah.
Wait, how do you let a
grown? That's how it goes. Yeah.
This nigga lets another grown man cook him and like fucking. Like, oh my god.
Oh my gosh. That's hilarious. Yeah. Yeah, but we've been telling Yanni to stop cucking for a while in the big GC, man. But yeah. Well, Sakazuki, if you're listening to this, which I know you are, my challenge still stands. I'll debate you in your own server, on your own verse, and I'll beat you in 20 minutes. And if I don't do that in 20 minutes, I'll buy you a night show. And so on that note,
dude,
guys,
book 20. Like, nah, say 5, bro. Like what?
5 minutes? I'm not sure about 5 minutes. Maybe 10, 15, something like that. Okay, yeah. The challenge still stands. The guy sucks. We lost the debate. Okay, guys, see ya.
Most of his debates are 15 minutes anyway. So.
Oh wait, no, I got something else to say.
What is it?
Now, Sakazuki, he's been ducking me like a bitch for a while too. I mean, I know why, but.
Because he sucks, yeah. Literally.
Again,
Again.
again,
Again.
Gyro and Isaac are the type of motherfuckers that just dick suck you and put you low on tier lists. You know.
They dox me every day, guys. Bro, hold on, one last thing. Bro, there's no agenda. There's no like real agenda against anyone in the community. There's no like actual conspiracy against anyone, dude. Like nobody's like, yeah, this guy's good. Well, let's all as a hive mind put this guy low. Like most of the time, if you're getting put low, people genuinely think that you're just genuinely bad at debating. And so that's like a terrible cope as well. That's not just Sakaduker. It's just a lot of people as well. Maybe not like
Yeah,
doxing
and you know
specifically,
what?
but
You know
yeah.
with a lot of good debaters as well. Like if you look at people that are seen as good at debating, like people like Infinity.
Apollo was hated. What? Like,
Why did I say Infinity? I was meant, bro. In my mind, I was meant to say Destiny. That's not me saying that Infinity is not a good debater. By the way, I'm just like siding on that issue. I was just talking about Destiny. Bro, if you look at Destiny, for example, or even like Danny Phil talk. Danny Phil talked to like, or he spoke to like Jordan Peterson like pretty publicly. If you go in the comments of that video, most people are saying that he did well, whatever. But like, there are a lot of people that are saying, "Oh, like he's like a cocky brat. He's like trying to do the rhetoric for Jordan Peterson. Like he's so annoying. He's so obnoxious, bro." Every debater has haters, bro. Every good debater will have haters. Like, so the idea that like, oh, these people are hating because of some biasness or some agenda. No, like Iris said, like people are gonna have different opinions. Everyone's entitled to that opinion. It just becomes an issue when like because of that opinion you like kick them out of the server.
Yeah, just a cope, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not even like they're dick sucking you, like, oh, you lost to Draco, you lost to Draco, you lost to like they'll be asked about it and you bro, oh my god. I go back into third ski. I was asked by Sakazuki himself what my opinion was on the Haram debate. I said, oh, well, I think, and I had Sakazuki blocked, by the way, but I was just like, okay, well, if he's asking me, I think that, Haram could be argued to have won, right? I didn't even say that he did win. I just said, I think you could argue that he won. And then I was like, there was a rejoinder that I just don't think Sakazuki responded to. And he kept asking me, what's the rejoinder? What's the rejoinder? What's the rejoinder? And I kept opening the messages and intentionally ignoring them and responding to other individuals just to make it really clear that I did not want to speak about the debate with the guy. And he ended up just banning me, right? Like, I didn't even provoke the guy. I was asked by him. I gave a response. He wanted to continue the conversation. I said no, because I have the right to use my fucking phone, man. I don't want to have to talk to you. And then he bans me. And so hear it from me first, guys. I mean, me and Gary are like martyrs in the community, right? We kind of went through everything together. Yanni just dick sucks. Shikyo's ready online. Mercury's gay. Isaac's not in the fucking server. So it's really just me and Gyro,
Yeah,
to be honest.
we fuck with it. Okay, guys. On that note, the guy sucks.
Peace
Fuck
out.
with it.
Peace out, guys.
Fuck Yanni. He's the cuck actually. Okay, guys. Thank you.